I did a podcast breakthrough session with a wonderful human today from Nigeria. And I think they're like 15 episodes in, and they were talking about growing and monetizing, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful conversation. So if you're looking for that, I'm happy to offer it totally free. I'm not going to sell you on anything. I just want to add as much value as possible because it helps me learn about what podcasters are struggling with. Podcast Growth Nation, welcome back to another episode of Podcast Growth University, where we talk all things podcasting all the time. Full disclosure, I just butchered the intro and I redid it. And I very rarely do that. Usually I would just work through it, but it was pretty bad. And that actually has to do with what we're going to talk about today. But I hope you enjoyed last week's episode. It was 2 things that helped our client monetize her podcast in her first week, episode number 117. Today, for episode number 118, a simple mindset shift for all podcasters. I had a different episode chosen. We'll do that next week. There's a huge difference between growing your audience and keeping your audience. The reason I did this episode is because a few of the episodes that I have done on mindset have been some of the highest listened to episodes that I have done yet. So to me, that means that those episodes are maybe the ones that are talking about the problems that you're having as a podcaster. So I figured, you know what? Let's do that. Let's do an episode on that. I have a really good example of a mindset shift that has helped me a ton and has definitely allowed me to do as many episodes as I have done. At this point today, I believe I have done almost 2,800 episodes total. Maybe even more. Might be over 28 because this is 100, whatever. A lot. I've done coming up on 3,000 episodes here shortly. And I did an episode recently as a guest. And Alan and I met afterwards. And he said, "Hey, man, what's happening? How's your day been?" And I said, it's been good. It's been a decent day. I went on a podcast earlier. It just wasn't great. And he said, "Why? Why wasn't it great?" And I said, there wasn't a ton of rapport between the host and I, and a lot of the questions were just very open-ended questions where it was really hard for me to know where the host wanted me to go. And I said, I wanted to be better. I don't think I did as good a job as I could have. It just wasn't my best performance. Did I bomb? No, but I feel like I took a little bit of an L. I took a loss on that episode. And then we laughed about it, and we unpacked it a little bit, and we talked about how we've both had that experience many times. And that's what we're talking about today. A simple mindset shift for all podcasters. And this has helped me a ton. You don't have to treat every single episode like it is the Super Bowl. So I live in the U.S. The Super Bowl is the biggest football game of the year. That is what all teams are aspiring to get to. And in the Super Bowl, the last thing you want to do is make a mistake. You don't have to treat every single podcast episode that you record like it's the Super Bowl. I now have the mindset that everything I do is kind of practice, but I want to practice at the highest level I can possibly practice at. So this episode right now, this is the 118th episode of Podcast Growth U that I've done. It's practice. Do I want to do a good job? Of course I do. Of course I want to do. I want to do the best job I can possibly do. But I also don't want to psych myself up into thinking this is the most important episode I ever do. You know, the most important episode I ever do is the next one. Because the second you stop, it's kind of over anyway. And I know there's a lot of podcasters out there that if they mess something up, it's the end of the world. If they mess something up, they don't release it. They treat everything like it's the Super Bowl. And I just don't think it's constructive. Now, if that lights a fire under your butt and you do more research for a guest or it brings out the best in you, awesome. I'm all for that. But I think for a lot of us, it holds us back. It holds us back from taking risks. It holds us back from doing more content. It holds us back from trying stuff. That has been a very powerful thing for me to understand that I'm going to do it again tomorrow. I get another chance. I get another chance to do it tomorrow. And that's what I told Alan. I said, yeah, I mean, I have however many podcasts tomorrow. I'm on 5 podcasts tomorrow. I get a chance to get back on the horse pretty quickly. And that's what I want for each and every one of you. I don't want every episode you do to be the most important episode you've ever done. I think it's valuable to have that perspective, but not if it holds you back. And I used to have the thought when we had guests on in the very beginning, as we got deeper and deeper and deeper into having guests, I didn't think this as much. But I used to think every big guest we had was the episode. This was the episode that was going to create the trajectory for us to be on the top charts or whatever. Get more clients, make money, whatever it was. Did that happen? Occasionally. There were a couple episodes, one in particular we did that crushed. It crushed, and we got a large influx of humans into our community, and it was really good. It was a really big episode for us. I didn't expect it to be what it was necessarily, but it was. But most of the time, it's just going to be a small growth. It's going to be, okay, I'm going to do this episode, and I'm going to make sure it's valuable, but I can't obsess over the fact that everything has to be perfect, because most of us don't have the time, energy, effort, focus, or budget for that. Yes, if you are shooting a podcast episode in a studio that you're paying thousands of dollars to use, and you only get one take at it, and you can't go back to the studio, yes, this is the Super Bowl. When I go give a speech in front of a large audience, that is kind of my Super Bowl. But everything else is kind of practice. And I think that's a very constructive way to look at it. So that's one thought process. The other thought process is the one that I just alluded to, where you assume that the thing that you're doing, the episode that you're doing, the guest that you're interviewing, is going to be the one that does it. And I've tried to explain this to clients gently, where I say to them, I understand this is a big guest. I understand this guest has a large following. I'm not saying you shouldn't be excited. I'm not saying you shouldn't have this person on. I'm just explaining to you that it probably won't do what you think it's going to do. There has to be a lot of things that line up in the right way for an episode to pop. If you have a big guest on, odds are that guest has also been on a ton of other podcasts, especially now. Now, podcasts are like late night television. When somebody has a book to promote, they go find podcasts. When they have a new song, when they have a new movie, when they have a new product, when they have a new service, whatever, they are hammering podcasts. So it's just not the same as it used to be. I'm not saying that won't be a high hitter. I'm not saying that won't be a valuable episode. I'm not saying you won't see some anomaly when it comes to data. But it's most likely not going to be the thing that makes or breaks you. Just like on the opposite front, if you misspeak and you forget what you want to say, it's probably not going to be the thing that makes or breaks you. In this case, breaks you. Unless you say something just wildly inappropriate, or unless you have a guest on that is extremely big and not a lot of other places have had the opportunity to interview that guest, it's not going to matter probably as much as you think. Now, again, I'm not trying to be negative. I just wish I knew this, because I would just rile myself up, have so much anxiety around the interview. I wouldn't do as good of a job as I wanted because I was so nervous that I need to nail this, because I want the guest to be impressed, and I want to make sure that the audience is impressed by my questions, because this is the episode that's going to launch us. It just was probably more destructive to me than it was constructive. So those are two simple mindset shifts for all podcasters. And even myself, it would be very easy for me to fall into, I have to be a certain way on this episode, and I can't be this. I can't be funny. I can't be sarcastic, whatever it may be. The beauty of me doing an episode every day for NLU is I'm always trying to figure out who I am. And lately, I have been in a kick of just trying to be funnier. Not because I have to be. It's because I want to be. I'm in that season. I want to make Alan laugh. It's fun for me. I want to make the listeners laugh. I want to make the community laugh. It's fun for me. But I wouldn't be able to do that if I was nervous about the way that it came across, potentially. Now, again, obviously you can take that too far. If you just completely rebrand your podcast and everything you talk about without you saying you're going to rebrand your podcast, that's probably not going to be good for business. So that's not what I'm talking about. But it's just those subtle mindset shifts that will hopefully create some longevity for you. I'm convinced one of the reasons people stop is because they just think, well, that was the episode and it didn't happen. Or, well, I'm 5 episodes in and nothing has happened yet. The mindset shift is, cool, 5 episodes is awesome. Strong work. But when you go to the gym 5 times, you don't see any results anyway. It takes longer than that. When you send 5 messages, maybe 1 person responds. That's not enough. It's not enough. When you are 5 days into a new job, you don't really have any idea what you're doing yet. And I consider 5 episodes 5 days, even if it's over the course of a year. This is another mindset that mindset shift that I wish I had sooner. Okay, let's say you do an episode every week for 52 weeks. Somebody would say, well, I've been doing this for a year. But if you really think about it, you've done it 52 times over the course of a year. So you've really only done it for two months in terms of the amount of time that you've put into the craft. I'm not saying the other 6 days of the week or 7 days of the week you're not building the business or whatever, but I'm just saying that seems to be a common thought is, well, I've already done 15 episodes and nothing has happened. 15 episodes is not that many if you think about it.
Hey, I wanted to give my experience working with Kevin and the rest of the Next Level University team. It has been such a seamless relationship. He is so easy to work with, Kevin, and he gives you all the information you need but doesn't overwhelm you. He's also meets you where you're at, so whatever you want to do, he'll make it work. And it's just, there's no stress, there's no drama. And everybody else that I've worked with has been patient with me because I am not technologically savvy. So they've been helpful and patient and just encouraging. And it's just been a fantastic experience. I highly, highly recommend working with them.
If you think about how much growth do we have between the 1st of the month and the 16th of the month when we do an episode every day, it's not a ton. Because it's not that much time in the grand scheme of things. It seems like a lot of time because it's a year. But I'm thinking of the amount of reps that you have. The amount of reps, the amount of impact, the amount of times on the microphone, the amount of times under tension, for lack of better phrasing. That mindset shift helped me a ton when I first realized it, because after the first year, I think we had 1,047. It's either 1,047 or 1,074 listens. And I remember thinking that's a lot of work for 1,047 or whatever it was. And it wasn't as much work as I thought. I mean, maybe it was 52 episodes and there was a lot of social media posts and there was some traveling and there was some stuff. But now it's different. I think that's the mindset shift. If you were only going to the gym once a week, I'm sure you would probably expect different results after a year versus if you were going 5 times a week. I mean, it's 5 times the amount of reps. It's 5 times the amount of exercises. It's 5 times the amount of knowledge, 5 times the amount of practice. Is it 5 times the amount of results? I don't know. Alan knows math better than I do. I don't know. I don't know if it is. And I'm not telling you have to do 5 episodes a week. I'm not saying that. But just as an example, the mindset shift is you want to get as good as you can. Because if you want to be successful as a podcaster, one of the best ways to do it is just get good at the craft and then all the things that come with the craft. I know that sounds overly simplistic or just extremely obvious, but I've been on a lot of podcasts where you can tell they're not focused on getting better. They think just doing it will create the success. And we talked about that a few episodes ago, I think. I don't remember what it was, but let's see. Spreading yourself too thin. Yeah, episode number 113, doing the bare minimum is only enough in the beginning, right? That's a piece of the mindset, is you can get really good at this if you do it long enough. Just like you can get really good at almost anything if you do it long enough. You can get better. I'm convinced you can get better at anything if you do it long enough. Will you be really good at it? I think compared to when you started, yes. So those are a few simple mindset shifts for podcasters, and they've helped me a ton. Another one that I'd add, I always say I'm going to do one thing and then I do like 12 things, but once I start, I want to keep going and see where we end up. I did a podcast breakthrough session today with someone who has already told me they want to work together. They're just not ready yet. And what I've learned about people who are launching their show, so if this is you out there and you haven't launched yet, and you've been thinking about it for a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, maybe it's been a week, it doesn't have to be as concrete as you think. So this is another mindset shift. Things are going to change, things are going to evolve, and the product that you put out in the beginning is not the product you have to have 6 months later. So the client, potential client, future client that I was talking to today said, I don't know, is it bad for me to do only an episode every other week when I start? And I said, is it sustainable? And they said, yeah, I think it's way more sustainable for me than doing an episode every week. And I said, no, that's not bad at all. Why would that be bad? We can grow into a more consistent run rate. A lot of people will say, well, I don't have the intro perfect yet, or I don't have the trailer perfect yet. The big thing I hear is I don't have the right studio set up yet. And I always say, you're never going to unless you start. So you're just going to wait a year until you build a studio and then you'll start your podcast? There's no way. That's like saying, yeah, when I have my own home gym, I'll start exercising. I don't think so. No. Unless you're so busy that you can't get to the gym. But no. It's about building the habit. It's about building the behavior. It's about building the confidence. It's about understanding where your mindset is. You get me fired up today. I'm fired up on this episode. Just because I want to see you start. I want to see you start. So many people I have worked with, the thing that they have said to me is, yeah, I've been thinking about this for 3 years. Or I've been thinking about this for 2 years or a year. And now I'm ready to pull the trigger. And the reason is because I'm telling them the mindset we have around perfection is just holding you back. The mindset you have around it has to be this level of quality to get started. Yeah, to a degree, sure. Right? I want to make sure you have quality stuff. But it doesn't have to be perfect like you think. We have to create an opportunity for us to grow into the podcasters that we aspire to be, the speakers that we aspire to be. So that is another simple mindset shift. And when I say simple, I guess in thought, conceptually, it's simple, but these are all hard because the fear of judgment is there. The fear of failure is there. All of that stuff is there. You listened potentially, if you didn't, no worries, but the 2 episodes I did with Evan Carmichael, I was nervous for sure in those. That's a big stage. That felt like the Super Bowl. But I think what helped me the most was understanding that these are just 2 more reps. These are 2 more reps. These are 2 more practices. Are there more people watching the practice now? Yes, sure. But I think it's constructive for me to understand that I have room to grow always. And the opportunity for growth, the recognition of growth is going to be here when I'm doing this. How else are you going to grow as a podcaster? Yeah, studying it, sure, reading about it, learning about it, but you're going to grow as a podcaster by podcasting. And a lot of your mistakes you make are going to be on the mics or on the cameras, and that's just par for the course. If you choose to edit them out, awesome. I always suggest you don't, because there is no safety net on stage. That's always what I say. Even the fact that, as I opened with this, I redid the intro, there is a piece of me that wishes I didn't, because I don't like that. But I also don't want to lose credibility right off the bat when I cannot pronounce the name of my own show that I've done 119 or 118 episodes on. So, thoughts on all that? Anything else in wrapping up here? Just the through line of value the reps. At this point, I think as of today, I've been on 904 other podcasts, which thank you. Shout out to anybody who has had me on. I appreciate you. A lot of those shows, I've been the first episode. Many of those shows, I've had the opportunity to work with those people behind the scenes, and they didn't have almost any listens. And I've had a lot of people say, well, why do you go on those shows? It seems like a waste of time. Because I want to get good at this. I want to get really, really, really good at this. And the best way for me to get good at this is just to do a bunch of reps. If you're a good driver, it's probably because you've been driving for many years. I consider myself a good driver. I've driven many miles. I'm a lot better than I was in the beginning. But that's because I've done a lot of reps. A lot of reps. So that is a mindset shift for all of us. If you're a photographer, the only way to get better at taking pictures is going to be to take garbage pictures. The only way to be a better musician is most likely just to make music that sucks for a while. And it's just par for the course. Now, do some people hit it and they're kind of overnight sensations? Sure. But that is very, 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 very rare. And if that's what we're hoping for, I do not like our odds. But trust me, I was there in the beginning. I thought we were going to go viral at some point. I thought all that stuff. I'm grateful we didn't. Because if we did go viral, I wouldn't have had to learn all the things that I've had the opportunity to learn. And I wouldn't have a podcast about podcasts because I wouldn't know what I was talking about. Yes, every opportunity is a practice. Yes, it can be scary. Yes, we want to take it seriously. Yes, we want it to be quality. Yes, we want to show up as professionals. But you don't have to treat it like the Super Bowl, especially if that changes the way you play the game in a bad way. If it makes you more nervous than you need to be, more nervous than is constructive, I would say lowering the barrier and saying, okay, well, I have an episode today, but I also have an episode tomorrow. So what I learned today, I can practice tomorrow, and then what I learn tomorrow, I can practice the next rep. Rinse and repeat that. Continue that on. All right. If you feel like you are struggling with this, if you feel like you are struggling with mindset, anything about your mindset in regards to your podcast, click the link in the show notes for a free 30-minute podcast breakthrough session. I did a podcast breakthrough session with a wonderful human today from Nigeria. And I think they're like 15 episodes in, and they were talking about growing and monetizing, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful conversation. So if you're looking for that, I'm happy to offer it totally free. I'm not going to sell you on anything. I just want to add as much value as possible because it helps me learn about what podcasters are struggling with. I'm struggling with different things than I was 5 years ago. Still struggling with stuff, but it might not be super relatable to what you're struggling with. So I want to make sure I'm always accurate with the episodes I do, and that's one of the best ways to do it. Also, I don't know, so if you use Buzzsprout, and other platforms have this, I think, too, but there is a button that you can check where it says, I think it says send me a text, or I think it's called fan mail. If you have questions or anything you want me to answer on the podcast, you can just click the button and it'll text me, for lack of better phrasing. I can't text back, which is weird. I don't exactly understand the point of it, but I can talk about it on the podcast. So we had somebody reach out for NLU asking about one of our accountability groups, and then we talked about it on the podcast, and we're able to directly reference that. So if you have questions you want me to answer on the podcast, I'm happy to do kind of a Q&A style at some point. So I turned that on for Podcast Growth U. I think it's in the show notes. Let me know if it's not. Social media, you can always connect with me there. All right, cool. As always, I hope your mindset has shifted since you started the podcast. I hope you start the podcast. If you're just here because you're trying to get information about podcasting and certainty about podcasting, I hope you start. And let me know if I can help. Email me, whatever. I don't care. I don't care if it doesn't involve us ever working together in a business capacity. I don't care. I just want to see you win at podcasting. At least start it. I hope that the people in your life believe in what you're doing, because I know how hard it can be when that does not exist. I'm blessed to have many people who do believe in the mission. I hope you're getting good guests. I hope you're getting on other podcasts, and I hope you're crushing it. That's what I hope. I hope you're crushing it. But I can't end on that because I say keep crushing it. I hope you're improving. That's what I hope. I hope everybody is improving out there. All right. Keep on crushing it. Keep on podcasting, and I will talk to you all next week.